If you are someone aspiring to become an IAS officer at 21, it is very, very possible. All you need is one, clarity, second, a good strategy, and third is the willingness to work. Because I'm from Eastern UP, Jaunpur, Uttar Pradesh, for us, it's always an aspirational profession, right? It's always like we really glorify this profession. So somewhere early on in my life, my grandfather had put this idea in me that I should become a collector. So this was maybe when I was in third standard, right? But this is a preparation that requires a sort of behavioral change that comes over a year of preparation, right? Every day you need to put a certain amount of effort. It does not need to be 8 to 10 hours, but it has to be something. I never started off thinking that my first attempt is going to be my trial attempt. I always wanted it to be the last attempt, right? I wanted to move back home. I didn't want to stay in Delhi for my preparation because I couldn't worry about all these things that come with, staying alone.
Today, in our Lead IAS Success Podium, I have a very special guest, Asta Singh. She secured 61 rank in the civil service exam, and that is not a specialty. And she secured this achievement in her 21st age, probably making her the youngest candidate in this year's result. So the second thing that I found very much impressive is that she took economics as the optional, one of the tough papers, tough optionals. And here Asta will share the story and how she cracked this exam at the very first attempt, and that is also in 21st age. Welcome, Asta, for Lead IAS Success Podium. We usually interview civil service toppers in Success Podium to get a topper to know more about their preparation strategy, the mindset. So for better clarity, I think I'll divide this conversation into 3 parts. First, to understand your journey. The second, your strategy. And the third most important part, your mindset. Because it is something that is every toppers have something unique in it.
Right.
So I think let's start your journey, starting from your school to this rank.
Right. So I have done my schooling primarily at 2 places. So most of it was done in Bhopal, Madhya Pradesh. And after that, in 2017, for my 10th, I moved to Panchkula, Haryana. So that's where my schooling went. I have been a topper throughout my schooling life. So somehow academics came very naturally to me. I was always inclined in that direction. Because also, again, in our family, in a particularly middle class family, we always knew that education is the way through which we can, attain that higher standard of living, that I don't know, just something that we aspire to be. All our dreams can probably come true if we take education very seriously, right? So that was the mindset, and because of which I always focused there. When I passed out from 12th standard, by that time I hadn't made up my mind that I wanted to get into the civil services, and that was the reason why I even went for economics as my optional, as my degree course, because I wanted to take it as my optional when I started preparing for UPSC. So then I went to the Sri Ram College of Commerce, New Delhi, in 2020, and I graduated in 2023. That's when I truly started preparing for UPSC. That was always there that I had to do it, but I started my preparation in a full-fledged manner in the July of 2023, and that's how it went.
Okay.
I first tried to figure out how I'm going about it, because I wasn't planning on taking a full-on foundational course. So I tried to figure out my resources, how I will tackle it. Will I go for GS first? Will I go for optional first? And all these decisions, a lot of time strategizing is what I did. And then, fast forward, July of 2024 is when I got into the Haryana Civil Services. I did my mains preparation while being in the training of Haryana Civil Services. So I was able to spend considerably lesser amount of time on that preparation. But I tried to emphasize smart work throughout my preparation, and I think that's why I'm here.
Okay. So you have mentioned that even though you have this idea of preparing for civil service back in your mind, and you started serious preparation after the college.
Right.
Is there a pre-preparation stage for you? Something like you followed the newspaper or you listen to some toppers. So do you have a kind of pre-preparation strategy?
I think first is just with something like UPSC, which is a marathon, which requires a lot of mental willpower along with the effort that you put in studying. So I think those 3 years when I in college when I had decided that I wanted to do UPSC was just keeping my mind consistent that this is what I wanted to do, that being clear about my goal, right? That was the first preparation, just making sure that this is your goal. Second would be, again, newspapers, not so much. I did try to study a little bit of that, but I only wholeheartedly pursued newspaper reading towards my interview stage. I'll be very honest about that. But more than that, I think the pre-preparation stage for me involved just sitting down, looking at the syllabus, and understanding: do I need coaching? Do I need to be in Delhi? Do I? What are the sources that I want to study from? Right. So these are the kind of decisions that I made early on. I looked at the syllabus. I thought, okay, this is what is the length and breadth of the syllabus, and accordingly I just made these peripheral decisions of the preparation before jumping into the preparations. I think those were my pre-preparation stages.
Okay. But how did you gain that clarity? This is something that I really wanted to do in my life.
I think like because I'm from Eastern UP, Jaunpur, Uttar Pradesh, for us it's always an aspirational profession, right? It's always like we really glorify this profession. So somewhere early on in my life, my grandfather had put this idea in me that I should become a collector. So this was maybe when I was in third standard, right? So it was there somewhere. But then over time, as I progressed, as I saw other professions around me, and I saw the length and breadth of this profession, I understood that my calling really was here. I wanted to get into the public services. I am a deeply empathetic person who has like very strong ideas as to what I want to see in our country, of the development that I want for our country. So I think over time I figured that my aptitude lies here, and I would do my best here. So I just made that decision, and then I never went back, because there were times when I felt that this is very tough. Maybe I could have just taken a job in the corporate, because that's something you can get with a degree in SRCC. But I just stuck to my decision, and it worked out.
You have mentioned that academies came naturally to you, and you have almost topped all the schools, and I don't know about the college, but the thing is that many of my students who are actually brilliant in the schools and colleges are not able to clear this exam, which means that the academic excellence may not be the kind of study preparation that you might have to do with civil service. So have you noticed any crucial changes in the way you would prepare for college exams and also the UPSC exam?
Absolutely. I think the most crucial difference is the consistent effort that this exam requires. I think back when we were in school or college, we enjoy our college life, we enjoy our school life, we study very close to the examination, right?
Yes.
So I think in college as well, I scored really well in colleges and all my exams. But the thing was, I would study like 1 week before the exam. That's about it, and it would work out. But this is a preparation that requires a sort of behavioral change that comes over a year of preparation, right? Every day you need to put a certain amount of effort. It does not need to be 8 to 10 hours, but it has to be something, right? You need to be in touch with your syllabus throughout that year, right? So I think that consistency part is extremely important. And secondly, like you said, academic excellence might not be a necessity or a sufficient condition when it comes to this preparation, and I wholeheartedly agree with that. For me, it just became easier to be disciplined throughout the preparation because of that history. But I think the mindset that we talk about, right, in this preparation, just strong-headedly going for this goal, that you know that this is my goal and I will do whatever it takes. If you have that, anything that was in the past, any academic history or failures, they don't matter, as long as you know this is your goal and you pursue it at any cost.
Alright. Now let's come straight to the strategy part.
Right.
The most curious question I am having: what is that X factor, that edge that you had compared to other aspirants who are taking this exam in the first attempt? Because UPSC report itself says that the percentage of people who clear exam in the first attempt is almost like 12% or 13%. And you landed in the first 100 rank also. It's an extremely rare situation. And what is that X factor which you think which had made you a topper in the first attempt?
I think one of the things that I have over time realized I stand out with is my confidence. I think there was this certain level of confidence that I always had. Ki, even though, like you said, the statistics are not in favor of first attempt clearers, but I felt like even if that's 12% is the statistic, why can't I be in that to 12%, right? I never started off thinking that my first attempt is going to be my trial attempt. I always wanted it to be the last attempt, right? So I jumped into this preparation with that mindset. So I was like, I will do anything and everything it takes to clear it in first attempt. The result is not in my hand, but my efforts are in my hand. So I went all in my first attempt. Secondly, I severely emphasized on smart work. I will agree that I do not know everything and I never planned on knowing everything. I just wanted to read the right things, and I wanted to basically put the minimum amount of effort that can get me the maximum amount of marks in the exam, right? So that's how I prepared both at my prelim stage and my main stage. I was like minimizing my sources and doing multiple revisions rather than getting that FOMO, that fear of missing out the new materials that are coming in the market. I think that I had detached from early on in my preparation, because of which I was very satisfied with the sources. I was confident in my preparation, and hence I think I was confident in the exam is what
Okay.
happened.
So you have said that you were figuring out what you have to read for this exam. So how did you figure it out? Because many aspirants in the first attempt, one big problem they're facing is that they take up some resources which may not fit well for the exam. So how did you get the guidance on what to read for this exam? How did you figure it out?
There are a lot of ways in which guidance comes. I think there are free mentorship programs. There are a lot of topper strategies out there. There are a lot of people who have made very good content and they have made it for free as well. Right? I tried to utilize each and everything. I talked to a lot of my seniors who are already doing preparation so that I can kickstart my preparation journey with some level of guidance they have. Again, I was always aware that there are certain basic sources for each subject. For example, Lakshmikant for polity, or be it the 11th, 12th NCRTs for geography, right? So I just focused on the basic sources. I never thought that I need to do something extraordinary, or there is somewhat a extraordinary, some hidden source that is going to be a Magna Carta to this exam, right? I never thought that. Whatever basic sources were there, and it is very publicly, the knowledge is very public about this, right? I just followed that. I followed one source of current affairs, and I was good to go. That's what happened.
Let's come specifically to prelims.
Yeah.
So prelims, did you emphasize on reading this foundational test again and again, or did you emphasize on practicing so many questions?
Both, I would say. Prelims preparation for me, like the wholehearted prelims preparation, started in January and it ended in June, right? So there were 6 months because it was my first attempt. I put everything in. So I revised my foundation text about 4 times for each subject. I was like, because revision is key. If you can't deliver on the same input that you have read multiple times, it doesn't matter what new sources you're reading, right? So I focused a lot on revision, but I also focused a lot on PYQs. I think past year questions are the holy grail for prelims or mains. I did the PYQs at least 2 to 3 times for all subjects. To the point where I could understand the terminologies and the wording and the way statements are formed by the UPSC, to get some level of understanding, to find those tricks and tips, that hidden meaning in those sentences, right? So for that, PYQ also helped me. And again, mock test for sure. I did a lot of them. Yeah, I think I was able to find that right number as to how many number of questions I want to attempt, the manner in which I want to attempt the paper, and attempting it in a timed manner. I think for that I had to do a lot of practice as well.
Okay.
So I did a combination of both multiple revisions and enough practice.
Okay. So did you organize your study schedule for prelims by enrolling to some test series? So they will be providing a kind of schedule for you, because in the Sunday they will be having one test, and then next Sunday next subject. So did you organize study according to a kind of prelims test series, or were you making a schedule for yourself?
I made a schedule for myself. In fact, I found a schedule formed by a teacher, and I followed it. It fit right according to the amount of time I had. And I did tests according to how I finished my syllabus, right? So tests were the secondary
Thing.
stage. So first was, okay, if I have picked this subject, I will first finish the subject, and then whatever test that I want to do related to it will come secondary, right? So that's how I organized. I did very personal, a very personal method when it came to that. Didn't follow anything.
Okay. So what is your optimum attempt in a prelims test?
Actually, that is very different from how it panned out in the original exam, right? I think when I was sitting at home and giving these tests, I would attempt quite a few. I would sometimes attempt 85 to 90 questions as well, right? Because you're doing it from the comfort of home, that pressure is not there. So you're okay with like attempting a few wrong questions as well, right? So I used to attempt a lot. But when it came to my original prelims, I think I attempted about 70 questions.
Cool.
And that was it.
Okay.
So yeah, I think it's very subjective to the test that we're doing. If the test is on a relatively easier side, your attempt will be naturally higher. But if it's a difficult one, you would want to minimize your negatives, and hence your attempt will be a little lesser. So somewhere around 70 to 85 would be a optimum.
All right.
Yeah.
So your 6 months journey, I just wanted to understand it better. So in your 6 month journey for prelims, you dedicatedly devoted time for prelims preparation. So you will complete a subject and then take a test. And then when did you come back again to this textbook? So what time you decided that, okay, now I can start revision? So did you plan like that?
So the schedule I was talking about,
Yes,
right?
yes.
It had planned 3 revisions for
3 revisions.
those subjects, right? So first revision would be say 7 to 8 days or 10 days also for each subject, right? And then once you're finished with that 10-day long revision for each subject, then the second set of revision would be say 4 days. Then you will do each subject in 4 days, which you did in 10 days in the first time, because second time it will take a little lesser time. And the third set of revision would be say 1 to 2 days, because it will take even lesser time. So that's how I had scheduled my revision plan as well.
Okay.
Yeah.
Now there is 10, I think hardly 10 days to go for prelims exam. So in those 10 days, what was your plan?
In those 10 days, I refrained from doing any mock tests. I didn't do any. I thought that it was a high time. Seeing a low score right now would not help my confidence. So I refrained from that. I again looked at all the PYQs for the subjects. I mean, I would just have a glance throughout the PYQs so I have this clarity, thoda sa revision wahan bhi ho jaye. Then in addition to that, the foundational text, like I said, so the 1-day revisions that I tell you, the third set of revisions, those were done in the last 10 days as well.
Yes.
So and this was on the study part. Then again, the second part is your confidence and your demeanor in these last 10 days, right? I tried to be very confident. I tried to be happy. When I'm not feeling like studying, I would take a break. I would talk to my friends. I would talk to my family, and I would do something I love. I would watch a show just to keep my mind calm, because I had realized this, that if you're anxious and if you're stressed in that exam hall, those 2 hours are very crucial. If you lose your cool there, then everything that you've studied will be of no use, right? So last 10 days, you can't really study something new. Do not study something new. Just revise. Keep yourself calm and happy and away from stress.
Okay, great.
Yeah.
Now let's come to this mains exam.
Right.
So for mains, did you prepare any notes based on the syllabus, and how was the preparation organized? Did you do any preparation in the beginning days, or you decided to prepare for mains, especially the general studies mains I'm talking about, only after the prelims?
Right. So at the onset of my preparation, I had sorted out my optional, right? Once I had finished my optional, I think a few months were left in 2023, right? I picked up one subject each, whatever I could relate to the GS mains, and I would read them. I would make notes as much as I can, right? That's all. But the thing was, I couldn't finish the entire mains before my prelims, right? So there was a lot still left. So I picked that after my prelims only. So if we say GS1, GS2, even GS3, right? For a few subjects in each of these papers, I had some already made notes which I used. I used them. I just revised those notes. I added some value addition points, some data points, updated things. And then whatever was left, I just tried to make short notes for each, right? Like we say that each pointer in the syllabus should have some 1 to 2 page or notes, right? So I focused on doing that. But since I did not have a lot of time, I could only give about 6 5 to 6 hours every day for mains because I was in under training in the month of August. So I tried to minimize my sources. So I had my friends. My friends had notes. I tried to take their notes and read as much as possible from them. What I did on a personal level was that I made these PDFs of say 10 to 15 pages each relating to GS1, GS2, GS3 and GS4. Now what these PDFs consisted was like related to each topic. Say, for example, in GS2, it's judiciary, right? Any committee related to judiciary reforms or any data related to judiciary, I had all compiled it in one place. So any question that comes related to judiciary, I will try to use some stuff, some data, some points, some quote or some committee name from this in those answers. So I had just made these cheat sheets for each paper where I had important fodders points that I could use in my answers.
Right.
Because generic points I felt like we could come up, right? We had that much understanding about each topic from the syllabus that you can make some points, but to substantiate them, whatever matter was needed, I had made a PDF out of it. And before my exam, I would just go and revise that and try to use as much of that content as I can in my papers.
Okay. Did you try to quote examples and statistics wherever it's possible? Or is it actually required?
I would say it is, and I did try to do that. So that's what I am saying. Like this is what I had done. I had did that smart work of consolidating those few examples, few schemes, few committees that I can use across papers. And I would really suggest that because that's the only thing that makes your answer stand out. I feel like the generic points everyone can come up with, but if you're able to substantiate it with an example, with a or in ethics, it could be any officer's name, or it can be any thing that has happened in the past, any quote by any intellectual, right? So these are the kind of things that make your answer more, I don't know, credible, make it stand out. So I think that is important.
So according to you, what are the 2 to 3 qualities that is non-negotiable in answer writing?
Okay, I think one would be how to structure your answer. Now, structuring your answers, like they said, right, that it has to be easy to read, right? So what I used to do is I used to make a lot of flowcharts in my answers. I would try to put at least one flowchart in each question. So that would also give a sort of beautiful appearance to my answer as well, and it would be easy to read, right? And it would cover the page as well. So I think structuring your answer and using flowcharts wherever possible is one. Second would be crisp introduction and crisp conclusions, where you can basically set the mood. So your introduction should be very catchy. If you can get that, it's brilliant. And your conclusion should be forward looking. You can quote a committee, you can quote reforms, and try to make it crisp. So I think these two qualities are non-negotiable. And third would be short points. Your points should not be monotonous. They should not be like 4 or 5 liners. It should be 1 to 2 liners, so that it's so that you can generate a lot of points and also not bore the examiner, is what I think.
Okay.
Yeah.
Now let's come to interview. So how was your interview and what did they ask?
My interview, I think, went pretty well. Obviously, there were a few questions that were bouncers. So I think the very first question that I was asked was related to caste system. And the thing is, I'm not from sociology background, so I was not really expecting this, being an economic student, but that was the first curveball thrown at me. But yeah, one thing I realized in the interview was that they're very accommodative of your answers, and they give you ample time to speak. So yeah, there were a lot of questions related to economics that were asked in my interview. One was explain inflation and its causes to a 5-year-old. So pretty interesting questions like that as well. And then issues related to RBI that we are seeing in the current scenario. And also a lot of questions on corruption, because I'm already working in a government department. So that was asked. And yeah, again, more economics. So
You have got wonderful mark in interview. So how did you organize your interview? So when was your interview? It was in the beginning or last stage?
it was in March. So
okay.
sweet spot, I would call it.
Yes.
Yeah. So I think when it came to interview preparation, it was actually a very difficult one to organize. I think because there is no set syllabus for interview, right? It's very personal preparation for everyone based on their likes and dislikes and their background, right? So for me, I took about 10 to 15 days just to understand this process as to what am I supposed to do. So most of my time in my day went into newspaper reading. I tried to read 2 to 3 newspapers, one of which used to be an economics newspaper or a business newspaper. So I think 5 to 6 hours I would spend in newspaper reading. Beyond that, it was a very dynamic process, I would say. I would have my normal life going on, my chores going on, but on top of that, I would pick up this one topic related to my DAF every day. I would try to read the transcripts, and I would try to find potential questions that can be asked from this. I would note it down, and I would try to brainstorm answers related to those pointers on my DAF or those questions that I had figured out. And beyond that, I would do discussions in the evening with my uncle. And yeah, that is it about my preparation. Nothing extraordinary, but just a lot of time being spent introspecting and forming opinions of things happening around you. Watching a lot of news analysis and interviews of intellectual people is how I went about mine.
So it's almost like an exploratory kind of preparation.
Accurately put, yeah.
Yes. And I can see that you started to read newspaper only after the mains, I guess.
Yeah.
Seriously, right? And I mean, actually, what prompted you not to read newspaper in the beginning stage of your preparation, and also at the time of prelims or mains, you are not relied on a newspaper much.
Right. So I will be very honest, like when I started my preparation, for the first month, I did try to read newspaper every day. Because I had never really developed this habit of newspaper reading early on in my life. So I wanted to have that nice habit. But the thing was that as I progressed, I found that time was a little not on my side, because again, there was just about a year till the exam, and covering the static part along with current affairs and everything in between and the mains preparation, I felt like I didn't have enough time to invest in newspapers, right? So that's why I stopped that. I would rely on a monthly magazine, and I would just try to revise them multiple times. And rest of my time, I think I focused on statics. So that's why newspaper was compromised. But at interview stage, I felt like it was non-negotiable, and that's why I promptly took that habit.
How was your content management? You'll be going through a lot of content.
Yeah.
So how did you organize? I got that like you made some short notes of value enrichment and you used that for mains. But apart from that, how did you organize this vast amount of content that you're trying to kind of learn?
Right. So there are few subjects, in my opinion, in which you don't really need to make notes, right? Or core sources that you don't need to make notes of. For example, Lakshmikant, I don't think you really need to make notes because it has to be read cover to cover, right? Everything in that book is important. So this, and then you would say geography of 11th, 12th, I think it's very holistic and you need to read every point of it. That's why there were few things that I didn't make notes of, but whatever I did make notes of, again, like I said, I would only focus on 1 to 2 sources. I would not try to find more and more content on every subject. So whatever limited sources I had made folders for each subject. So whenever I did my first reading, and then whenever I had first read, and then I had understood, okay, this is the content, and I would make notes in my own words, and I would just compile it in a folder, and then that was clearly segregated, each folder for each subject. So that is how I managed, and I would just revise those notes or those core sources. And yeah, I think that's how I managed.
Did you maintain separate notes for prelims and mains?
No, I did not do that. Only there were a few subjects which are main specific, obviously. So their notes were different, but anything else, I did not segregate them per se.
Did you make notes from the questions that you're solving from mock test?
So for mock test, what I used to do is once I had solved, I would go through the answer key in depth, and then I would not make detailed notes, but whatever interesting thing or new thing or something that I had not read previously came in that particular mock test, I would take a sheet of paper and I would just note down those points. And then I would compile it at a place and I would revise just that page rather than making any bulky notes for mock tests or revising the tests in itself. So yeah, that's how I went about it.
You made digital notes or paper notes?
Paper notes for the most part, but then I tried to make digital notes in between during my mains and also my interview, but mostly it had been paper notes that just came naturally.
So I'm just curious to know how you used AI for your preparation.
I'll be very honest, I have still not figured out
Sure.
how to use AI in its best sense. I did try, especially I think during my interview stage, I tried to use AI as much as I can to get different perspectives in my answers. But other than that, I have not really used AI that much in my preparation.
Okay, great. And also any particular mobile applications that you had used during your preparation, which helped in your productivity or learning?
Not really. Google.
That's it. Okay.
Google.
I mean, did you ever distracted by social media? How did you manage the social media distraction?
I mean, I had social media throughout my preparation. I had deactivated my account about for 1 month before my mains, and I think that was it. Because I was preparing from home, I needed to be in touch with the outside world. I didn't really have friends around in the city, so that's why to channelize my social animal, I had social media for the most part, but I tried to minimize it. I tried to use it in a very non-distracting way. I would, it's somehow, I don't know, for me it was never an issue. I would, the minute I kept my phone aside, I can get to studying. So it didn't really distract me that much, so never got to that point that it becomes an issue.
Now let's come to the third and final part, that is about mindset.
Yeah.
So did you think about a plan B?
Obviously, there were always thoughts as to what can be my plan B. It can be a master's in economics, because I did want to give a few attempts for sure, at least 3 attempts I had planned for myself. So if first attempt didn't work out, then it would be a master's. But the thing is, another plan B that I had thought was state services, but I had gotten my plan B before my plan A. So that was never an issue. So once I did get the job in Haryana Civil Services, I didn't really worry that much as to what will happen if I didn't clear in the first attempt, because I knew that I was in the field of my choice. I was already in the civil services of a state, so I'm on the right track. I will be here till that dream works out.
Okay.
So yeah.
And one another character of all the UPSC toppers is most often they will be having a good support system.
Right.
Okay. And what was your support system?
Definitely a lot of people have been there throughout this journey, and I owe this success to them. My family being the first and foremost, I think they gave me that environment within home, which maximized my productivity and maximized my efficiency, and never had to worry about anything. So I think number one support system were my mother, father, and my sister. Additionally, my friends, both from college and also in my job, I think they have been there in multiple roles, be it me ranting about the difficult process that this exam is, or just emotionally tumultuous events happening, or be it, like I told you, during my mains, lending me their notes, right? So in all shapes and forms, they have been there. And also my bosses at work, they were very supportive, and they tried to help me in every way that I can. So I think.
And also one thing that I noticed is you have not attended any particular coaching classes as such. So why did you decide that way? So usually everyone who thinks about civil service will think that, okay, I will go for classes.
Right. So basically, the thing was that I wanted to move back home. I didn't want to stay in Delhi for my preparation, because I couldn't worry about all these things that come with, staying alone. So I wanted to move back home, and then I also didn't think that 1 year was enough to undertake a comprehensive foundational course. And also get the necessary amount for self-study, right? So that's why I made this decision that maybe I can cover things a little bit more quickly on my own account. So that's why I didn't go for coaching.
Okay.
Yeah.
Even though the 1 year preparation just before the exam actually helped you to crack this exam, there will be some elements from your school time onwards which had actually contributed or facilitated this success. So if you are looking back, so what are those factors from childhood onwards which actually helped you to crack or facilitate the success?
Like I've mentioned before, this is not a necessity that you have a good academic background to clear this exam in the first attempt. But definitely I had that advantage that I like studying. For me, it's an enjoyable activity, even if you can say. So I never minded studying for long hours. So that was one. Secondly, a level of self-discipline that had come due to the self-motivation that I have in myself. So like I said, I wanted to clear this in the first attempt, right? So that self-motivated me to be disciplined, to be consistent throughout. So I think these are things that I have followed from my early days. Thirdly, also the confidence that I have attained over time in the academic sphere. It really helped me feel secure that this is possible.
Okay. Don't you ever doubt yourself on this process?
Multiple times, of course, I do. When I say that, I feel like I'm confident, but the thing is, there are days when I'm at my rock bottom when it comes to this preparation because of how long and how negligible the success statistics are, right? But I think bouncing back from those low points is what ensure success, right? So I think I was able to bounce back thanks to the support system around me. And I knew that I had chosen this for myself. Nobody else has asked me, so I cannot crib about it. So might as well work hard.
Okay.
Yeah.
I also ask this question to all my students, toppers. So what is the percentage of luck that you see in your success?
I can't really enumerate it, but I would say, especially with my experience, I'd say that there were a lot of things that could have gone wrong, that had gone wrong, yet here I am. So if I see from an objective perspective, if you tell me that a person is studying only 5-6 hours in their mains time, their success rate would be fairly negligible, right? But the thing is, it still happened. So I think there is some luck factor. More than luck, I think it's good wishes, it's manifestations, and it's everything around you. But yeah, some percentage, not sure how much.
Okay. So what mattered the most in the success? Is it attitude? Is it strategy? Or is it hard work?
Attitude, strategy, hard work, in that order. Because I believe that making up your mind, having that positive attitude towards this marathon of a preparation is the first and foremost step. Without that, it's a necessary condition, right? Beyond that, if you don't strategize and you just put your head down and start working hard, I don't think that can be the right way to go. In fact, I sometimes believe that hard work is over glorified in this preparation. So yeah, I would say first and foremost attitude, then the importance of strategy comes in, and then hard work.
Okay.
Yeah.
And also, there are a lot of people who wanted to become IAS officer at a very young age, at 21st age.
Yeah.
So what would be your advice to them?
I think first and foremost change that we need to bring in this particular mentality around this exam is that it is uncrackable in the first attempt. So that is what I hear. I think from a lot of people that I have seen after seeing my videos, I think people have said that it takes at least 3 to 4 years just finishing the syllabus. That it's not possible. And then they start doubting me and my credibility. But okay, that's a whole different point. But I feel like that mindset that it cannot be cracked in the first attempt needs to be changed. If you are someone aspiring to become an IAS officer at 21, it is very, very possible. All you need is one, clarity. Second, a good strategy. And third is the willingness to work and give this exam the proper amount of hard work and importance that it requires. So if you have all these elements, I don't think there's anything that can stop you.
Okay, great. And my final question would be, you're going to lead our nation, you're going to become an IAS officer. So did you ever think of, when I become an IAS officer, this is a domain which I really wanted to work with, or this is a problem I really wanted to solve. Right. So do you thought of any of such things?
I think there are a lot of things that can be worked on, that are being worked on by the civil servants we already have. But I think one area that I have grown to feel find very important being an economic student is skill development and education. I believe, like I said, education is what we were always made to think that is the ultimate trailblazer, that it can, alleviate all problems and escape that poverty trap of sorts, right? So I think education is one area that I would really like to work on, and skill development, because again, demographic dividend.
Yes, great.
Yeah.
It was a great conversation. Very happy to interact with you. And You have revealed some of the very striking points, and especially what I found very interesting is the idea that you wanted to change the notion that it is uncrackable in the first attempt,
Absolutely.
and also in the 21st age. So that's a great thing, that like many students have this perception that it takes a lot of time,
Right.
and that's a great message. And we really, Read.is really wish all the best, and you're going to lead our country, and our country is going to get developed by 2047, and you will be in the forefront of that transformation. And wishing you all the best.
Thank you so much, sir. It was really a wonderful conversation.
Thank you so much.
Lead IAS, #1 IAS Academy in Kerala.